we're continuing to see an upward trajectory in terms of deals made.
The Dallas Cowboys are trading Micah Parsons to the Packers.
Unfortunately, it isn't always a positive impact. So, let's peel back the layers and look at 5 trades that are looking genius through the first part of the season, and 5 that look terrible. Genius, Micah Parsons to Green Bay Packers. Well, I think this is a pretty obvious place to start. Micah Parsons, one of the best pass rushers in football, now rocking the green and gold. When Dallas announced it was even listening to calls on Micah Parsons, it had felt like Jerry Jones had slipped a little too much of something into his morning coffee. Trading away a generational pass rusher because your ego is hurt from trying to negotiate a deal with him directly, all because you're hanging on to the good old days and refuse to work with their agents? That, my friends, is pure madness. And heck, maybe a pointer that we should have been focusing on what a terrible trade this was for the Cowboys. But let's stay focused on Green Bay, who capitalized on the Cowboys panicking while staring down the barrel of the richest non-quarterback contract in NFL history. Green Bay gave up a pair of future first-rounders and Kenny Clark to pry Parsons away from Dallas, and yeah, that is a steep price. But when you're getting a true game-changer on defense, the kind of guy who can single-handedly wreck a game plan, well, that's just the price you pay. So far, he's come as advertised, lining up all over the front, terrorizing quarterbacks, and giving Green Bay's defense a real identity. Even if the Cowboys got fair value with the picks, the Packers are the clear winners right now, because Parsons makes them a contender today. Terrible, CJ Gardner-Johnson to Houston Texans. The CJ Gardner-Johnson deal has been far and away the biggest flop thus far. When they pried him away from the defending champs early this offseason for a 2026 pick swap in Kenyon Green, everyone applauded the Texans and expected him to juice Houston's defense with his game-breaking takeaway skills. Gardner-Johnson was coming off a career high with 6 interceptions for the Super Bowl champions in 2024 and addressed a positional weakness. All signs were pointing to him putting the team in position to really contend in the AFC. But man, did it go south fast. He was burned in coverage multiple times in key moments, and apparently refused to integrate himself with the locker room and coaching staff, to the point that they cut ties with him after just 3 weeks, releasing him. This is definitely a big flop. Genius, DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh Steelers. They went outside their comfort zone and traded with Seattle for DK Metcalf, sending over a 2025 second-rounder and a pick swap. Better yet, the Steelers were able to ink the talented young receiver to an extension before the already bananas receiver market continued to skyrocket. Honestly, on paper, the move made all the sense in the world for the offense-starved Steelers side. Metcalf is a physical freak, 6'4", 235 pounds, sub 4.4 speed. He is a prototype that would be built in a lab, and with Aaron Rodgers coming to town, Pittsburgh needed to add weapons. He is a matchup nightmare, and it is finally starting to click for him in the Steel City. Based off of what we saw coming out of Week 4 against the Vikings, I think it's clear that he's still got it, and once he and Rodgers really find their rhythm, they are going to be one tough duo to stop. Terrible, Geno Smith to Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders went for familiarity, allowing Pete Carroll, who was taken over as head coach, to bring in his guy in Geno Smith to steady the ship. The trade cost was modest, but meaningful. A 2025 third to Seattle, and then Vegas doubled down with a 2-year extension worth up to $85.5 million. Unfortunately, though, the offense just isn't clicking so far, and their record really shows it. They are back in the bottom of the AFC West at 1-3 through 4 games, and you can see the tension building in the organization. This has only been exacerbated by his chemistry with the blue chippers on the squad. He and Brock Bowers have not found the connection that most had expected them to. And he and Ashton Genty don't really seem to be on the same page either. No one was expecting this team to hoist the Lombardi Trophy in year 1, but Geno was supposed to meaningfully raise their floor, and, well, that is just not happening. Genius, Joe Thuney to Chicago Bears. Look, if you're trying to fix an offense for a young quarterback, weapons obviously help. But as we saw last year in Chicago, it's not everything. If you want to really make a difference, you need to start with the foundation and improve the trenches. And Joe Thuney is as high grade as a reinforcement gets. Better yet, he's a culture setter in the locker room to go along with his stellar abilities on the field. With Thuney in the mix, it's starting to get easier for Caleb Williams. The pocket stays flat, he remains calm, and everything else on the call sheet gets simple to execute. His presence has provided a huge boost to the whole offensive line. Thuney's technique is textbook. Independent hands, calm feet, and zero panic when rushers try to win late. You can already see the early returns in the numbers too. 166 pass block snaps, 0 sacks, 1 hit, 4 total pressures, and 0 penalties through the first 4 weeks of the season. And to think, Kansas City was willing to part ways with him for a mere 4th rounder. Heck, the Bears have gotten back into the green on that return already. He is playing in the final year of his contract, but if he's able to fully stabilize this Bears offense and they make a run to the playoffs, well, don't be shocked to see him stick around in the Windy City for a couple more years in the twilight of his career. Terrible, Minkah Fitzpatrick to Miami Dolphins. Heck, this one had all the makings of an ideal homecoming. Minkah Fitzpatrick returns to Miami to anchor the secondary in Anthony Weaver's defense. His range, ball skills, and leadership were tailor-made for that system. The Dolphins got Fitzpatrick in a 2027 5th. Steelers got Jalen Ramsey, Geno Smith, and a 2027 7th. Miami then reworked Minkah's deal, adding a nice signing bonus and cap relief. All of this, of course, came with the expectation that he was going to be a piece that could help them contend. Not just in the AFC East, but in the broader playoff picture as a whole. Unfortunately, that has not at all manifested in reality. Miami has been one of the most disappointing teams in the league so far this year. And Fitzpatrick, while he has been serviceable, the defense as a whole has not been great. And it has really got to leave Dolphins fans wishing that they hadn't packaged assets to bring a 28-year-old safety to a bad team. Fitzpatrick, I'm sure, is happy to be home near his family, but, well, you gotta think a part of him is also wishing that he was dealt somewhere that he could have played some more, well, meaningful football. Genius, George Pickens to Dallas Cowboys. Dallas had become a one-trick pony on offense. Once the running game failed, which it often did, they would spam the ball to CeeDee Lamb and hope that he'd win the matchup, which allowed opponents to bracket Lamb and squeeze the seams, limiting this opportunity for the explosive plays that he's made his name on. Enter George Pickens, the controversial wide receiver who was acquired from Pittsburgh back in May. The trade package was aggressive, but reasonable, and they're already starting to see a pretty good return. And with the news that Lamb suffered a high ankle sprain and is expected to miss significant time, Pickens is even more indispensable right now. Pickens will still have his moments where his competitive spirit, let's call it, will get the better of him, but he's really starting to settle into the Cowboys culture, and he's not just a splashy name to sell jerseys. This was a team that had become predictable, and they were wise to take a shot on a 24-year-old stud for a 3rd and a late pick swap. I mean, if he keeps improving, this one will go down as a genius move, no doubt about it. Terrible, Travis Hunter to Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville moved heaven and earth to get Travis Hunter, trading up with Cleveland to 2nd overall. Want to talk about a hefty price? How about sending the number 5 pick, 36, 126, and a 2026 first to the Browns for the right to take Hunter and a couple of swaps. This was one of the biggest draft swing in years, especially for a non-quarterback. The hope was that he could be the first two-way player in decades, but through the first 4 weeks of the season, he's really not a full-time player on either unit. Just 13 catches for 118 yards through 4 games. No touchdowns, and the performance on the defensive side of the ball hasn't been all that inspiring either. Obviously, there's still time for things to turn around for the 22-year-old, but so far, it's looking rough. Genius, Deebo Samuel to Washington Commanders. Despite the fact that there was a lot of buzz around Deebo Samuel this offseason following a disappointing 2024 campaign, Washington's front office moved decisively to bring him in. This was a straightforward and super affordable trade with San Francisco, as they were able to bring him into town at a steep discount, all for a 5th-round pick. Samuel's 2024 output dipped while he managed injuries and a smaller role, which ended up cooling the market and allowed Washington to get him at a very reasonable cost. But that context doesn't erase what he still does for an offense when he's at his best, which, so far, that's what we're seeing through 4 weeks of the season. In Week 4, Samuel caught 6 of 6 targets for 72 yards and a touchdown, operating as Marcus Mariota's go-to option while injuries thinned the receiving room, taking Terry McLaurin out of the action. Samuel gives Washington flexible personnel looks, extra juice on their packaged plays, and a reliable after-catch threat. Exactly the kind of addition that expands Kingsbury's offense. Terrible, Laremy Tunsil to Washington Commanders. There's a reason that Washington fans were excited about bringing Laremy Tunsil to town in exchange for 4 picks, although none of them for first rounders, it's kinda hard to feel like he's really delivered on his end of the bargain. Tunsil himself still flashes the right stuff sometimes, but he was brought in to elevate this entire unit, and offensive consistency just has not popped. If the protection and rushing efficiency spike when Daniels returns, great, but so far in September, the delta between cost and outcome lands this squarely in the terrible bin. But hey, which offseason trade do you think looks the best so far? Which looks the worst? Who do you think we're right on? Who do you think we're wrong about? Was there anyone that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.